2025 is an amazing opportunity for you and I to achieve more in every area of our life, but it's going to take work, it's going to take intentionality, and it's going to require that you and I get better, which is why the title of this conversation is Becoming Your Best Version in 2025. With this being the first conversation of the new year, I just want to tell you how grateful, how thankful, and how honored I am that you decided to spend some time with me as we're talking about becoming your best version in 2025. And this is a very relevant and important topic for us to talk about at this point of the year, because whatever it is that you want to achieve this year, whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, whatever's on your vision board right now, the way in which it's going to happen is when you get better. It's when you are able to truly lead yourself to those goals that you have written down, or it's on a whiteboard, or wherever you have them placed. And it's my goal in this conversation to really just give you three things, three keys, three tactics that would allow you to truly take that next step in your evolution, to take that next step in your development and your growth, so that way you can really achieve all that you've written down and probably exceed those things. And so these are three things that you might have heard of before, but I hope that during our conversation that you just have a fresh perspective on them, because I know that it will help you because these are things that I'm doing myself, and I'm already starting to see the benefits of these three things that I'm about to share with you. And so if you want to become the best version of yourself in 2025, number one, you need to elevate your focus. You need to elevate your focus. And what this point basically means is that you need to become extremely intentional about everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you think. You need to be, in other words, very aware of what you're paying attention to. You need to be very aware of how you are living your life. Now, this point of elevating your focus is really broken down into three parts. Part number one is that you need to focus on milestones. Focus on milestones. Now, milestones are essentially the stepping stones to you achieving whatever goal is on your mind. Now, a real goal has action steps. Now, each of those action steps should lead to some sort of result that bring you closer and closer to your goal. Let's just say, for example, whatever you have written down is a step 10, right? That is your goal. That's where you want to be. You're at level 1. You want to get to level 10. So your milestones would be level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then ultimately 10, right? Basically the goal that you've written down. And when we think about elevating our focus, you genuinely want to focus on those milestones where I'm not focusing while I'm at level 1 on level 10. I'm simply saying, okay, what do I need to do? What action steps do I need to take? What habits do I need to form? Whatever the case is, that would help me get to that next level. Then once I'm on level 2, what do I need to do to get to level 3? Once I'm on level 3, what do I need to do to reach level 4? And so on, et cetera, and so forth. So in order for you to elevate your focus, I want you to start focusing on your milestones. No matter what your goal is, each and every one of us, it all can be broken down into milestones. So you're going to focus on your milestones. That's the first part. The second part is you're going to focus on your decision making. Now, decision making is very, very powerful, because decision making will let you know what you're focused on. Because when you are making decisions, you are always saying yes to one thing, but that also means subconsciously and subsequently, you're saying no to other things. And so with your decision making, you have to be very intentional about just the way in which you choose things, the way in which you decide in which to live your life, right? And so you want to focus on your decision making, meaning that you're just paying very close attention and being very intentional about what you're saying yes to, and being very intentional about what you're saying no to. And this, for a lot of people, is a struggle, just because we want to say yes to everything. We want to be there for everybody. We want to, prioritize everything. But ultimately, if you genuinely want to become the best version of yourself, you are going to need to get a little selfish when it comes to your dream. You're going to need to get a little selfish when it comes to your goal. And I know that a lot of times selfishness is something negative, which overall it is. But when you think about just achieving something that has a significant impact for others, your goal, you need to be a little bit selfish, so that way you can actually do whatever it is that you need to do, and your decisions need to match that. And so when we're elevating our focus, we are going to need to focus on our decision making, meaning that we're not just going to be throwing out yeses just because, oh, well, I always say yes, it's my family, or I always go because, we're friends, or I always do this just because. No, we want to really be intentional. We want to really take our time as we make decisions, because ultimately every decision is either taking us to our goal or it's pulling us away. And so we want to make sure, especially in this new year, that we are focused on our decisions. Now, the third thing that we want to make sure that we are focused on, especially as we think about this new year, becoming our best version and everything like that, is that we are focused on the big picture. We're focused on the big picture. There is a lot of people who will engage in a lot of amazing habits. There's a lot of people who will do some productive things, but they will lose the big picture and their end point won't look like what they originally intended, simply because they lost the big picture. So you can be just doing a lot of amazing things, but if it doesn't lead you to where you actually want to go, then what's the point? So before you start new habits, before you start doing new things and all that different type of stuff, which can be categorized as something nice to do, make sure that it fits in your big picture. Make sure that whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're thinking, wherever it is that you're going, actually is congruent, actually has some symmetry with your big picture. So this is where you think about keeping the vision in front of you. This is where you think about practically keeping your goals in front of you, because you can go to the gym a whole bunch, but if you decide to overdo it, right? If you decide to overdo it, then you could basically completely shift what you actually were intending to do with your physical health or with your finances or whatever it is. Now, again, that's just one example, but I just want you to think about keeping your big picture in mind, keeping the vision in front of you. So that way, when you are going into your day, you now know exactly where you are going. It's basically like a GPS. You've heard me talk about this before, where your goals are like a GPS. And I don't know about you, but if I'm going somewhere I've never gone before, I want to use a GPS. And the same is true for our goals. Whatever it is that you've been called to, you've never been there before. You have an idea of how to get there, where you have your milestones and steps, but you want to make sure you have your GPS, which would be your milestones, and you're going to make sure that you're making the right decisions to arrive at that big picture destination. All of that allows you to elevate your focus. All right, you're going to be elevating your focus simply by focusing on your decision making, focusing on your milestones, as well as focusing on your big picture. Because when it comes to being focused, when it comes to elevating your focus, when it comes to being able to be described as a focused person, being focused is an everyday commitment. It's an everyday commitment in order to achieve whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, so you can go where you want to go. So if you genuinely want to, buy a house this year, if you genuinely want to get in a relationship this year, or whatever the case is, your focus is an everyday decision. And you have the power to make that decision. And I pray that you do, because you deserve it. Now, the second thing that you want to be able to do in order to become the best version of yourself in 2025 is I want you to evaluate your thinking. I want you to evaluate your thinking. Now, this is a very, I'll say it's a very deep topic. It's deeper than it sounds, but it really is simple, because a lot of us, particularly in school, we're simply told what to think, but we're not really taught how to think. And in order for you to become the best version of yourself, you're going to need to move out of just doing what you're told to do and doing or thinking however it is you've been told to think, and really start thinking about, okay, how do I think? And really start evaluating and trying to train yourself in just how to think. Now, that might sound very, it might sound very deep, but it's really not. It's more so just you being able to own your own thinking process and your own thinking syntax. So that way you're able to make the best decisions for you, so you can actually focus. But if you don't know how to think, you're always going to be limited. And so if we want to become the best version of yourself, you need to evaluate just your thinking, just where you are right now today. Evaluate how you think. Evaluate the thought processes that come in your brain every single day. This is where you think about even the conversation you have with yourself, and just evaluating it and making sure that it's in line with where you want to go this year. And so when you think about just evaluating your thinking, this is a threefold thought. Number one, you need to evaluate what you believe is true. Now, this is very broad, but just when you think about what you think is true, you need to be able to identify that's what I think is true. And it needs to be a thought for yourself, not something that somebody just told you to think. Just really being able to have your own opinion, stand on your own 2 feet and say, hey, this is what I believe is true, whether it's about yourself, whether it's about your goals, whether it's about your life, whether it's about your job, your relationships, friendships, experiences, whatever it is. You just want to be able to evaluate what you believe is true. That's one half of it. The other half of that is that you need to evaluate what you believe is false. And it needs to be something that you've thought of and thought through all on your own. Like somebody did not tell you, oh, that's false. Oh, that's not good. Oh, they aren't good. Like you need to be able to input information, right? You can hear information from other people, but the decision on terms of what you believe is completely up to you. So if you are evaluating your thinking, you need to be able to really evaluate every part of what you're thinking and be able to say, okay, that's what I believe is true, but I also believe that's false. And here's why, based on my own opinion, based on my own thinking. And if it needs to shift, it can shift, but there needs to be just a level of ownership taken when it comes to how you think, because there are a lot of us who we take on these beliefs. We take on these opinions and thoughts simply because somebody else said it or because we heard somebody we look up to said it. And there isn't much foundation to it. So that way, when it is time to truly act it out, when it is time to even defend the thought, we can't because there's no foundation to it. And so I want you to evaluate your thinking. Just think about just what you believe is true, what you believe is false. And even deeper than that, once you and this is the third part, once you identify, okay, this thought is true, this thought is false, whatever it is, you need to get to the source of the thought. So I want you to evaluate the source of that thought. And this process, I should say, should lead you either to an experience or just some real data that would allow you to base this thinking in something, right? Where I can say, I believe that apple juice is an amazing juice because every time I've had it, it's put a smile on my face. Like, obviously that's a funny example, but overall, like that thought came from a source of my own experience where even if I did hear about other people's opinions and thoughts, I was then able to just come to that determination for myself. Where, and again, you can go super, super deep with this when you just think about, just limiting beliefs and just what you can believe you can have and your self-identity and self-worth and all those different types of things. But overall, when you just think about how to think, when you think about just what you believe is true, what you believe is false, you need to get to the source of the thought. Like, why do I believe that's true? Why do I believe that is false? And a lot of times you will end up finding a lot of limiting beliefs. You'll find a lot of neutral beliefs. You'll find a lot of things that you need to change. You'll find a lot of things that you might need to get some more information from. That's where, someone can speak into those beliefs and really help help you navigate just how you need to be thinking about some things, how you need to be seeing some things. And so, again, not to be too long-winded on that point, but I want you to evaluate your thinking. Now, here's the best thing about thinking, right? In terms of why thinking is even important for us in order to become the best version of ourselves. Thinking unlocks your gifting. Thinking unlocks your gifting. When you learn how to think, when you learn how to think for yourself, you will start being able to now access and utilize all the gifts, talents, creativity that is inside of you. But if you are always just living your life based on what you were told to think, you will always live limited. And so, again, if you want to become the best version of yourself in 2025, I'm going to encourage you to evaluate your thinking. Now, this third and last one, in order for us to become the best version of ourselves, number 3 is simple. It's a one-word point. You need to execute. Simple as that. You need to execute. In this new year, you're going to need to execute. Now, execution is really what I believe a great separator of just really all people, whether you're a leader, whether you're not, regardless of whatever space, your ability to execute will make the difference. Now, there's 3 ways in which I want you to execute as you step into becoming your best version. And they're very, very practical. Number 1, I want you to create your successful day. Literally, just create your successful day. This is where you get very intentional about just in one day, just think about, okay, what would I need to do in a single day that would allow me to comfortably say, I had a successful day. And this could be from, talking about your wake up time. This could be talking about your morning routine, just what you do within your day, what you would need to see accomplished within one day, whatever it is. But just overall, when you think about your life, where your focus is on your big picture and just the goals that you want to achieve this year, you need to be able to say, okay, this is my successful day. So whether that's I wake up at 6, I pray, I go to the gym. After I go to the gym, I work these certain hours and I accomplish this within those hours. Then when I get off of work, I eat this meal and I go home and I do, like, you just really, from the start of your day all the way to the end, you have it broken down, basically saying, okay, if I hit these couple of targets, if I do these few things, I have had a successful, productive day that will lead me to where I want to be, which would be achieving those goals and seeing those things that are on your vision board in this new year. And so in order to execute, you need to create your successful day. The second thing is I just want you to start small. If you want to execute well in 2025, just start small. Don't try to overwhelm yourself, because if you try to put too much on yourself too early, you're just going to lead yourself to frustration. And so as you think about this new year and you think about whatever maybe habits you want to start, or you think about, just new endeavors you want to begin, I'm going to encourage you to just start small, because 365 days is a long time, and it's much better for you to gradually make these changes as opposed to abruptly just pivoting and abruptly doing things, because you're more likely, again, to be frustrated, more likely to burn out and all those things. So as you describe your successful day, don't just try to jam pack it with everything you should be doing, especially if you know that you're nowhere near that. So just start small, and that's all relative to where you are, is relative to just your experience and everything like that, where you know your limits, what you can take on and just what you're not going to take on. So I want you to start small in order to execute, because you will go a lot further by taking small, everyday, consistent actions versus trying to make major steps and make major waves every single day. You won't have the energy to sustain it. And I want you to sustain it because I also want you to enjoy this process. I want you to be able to go through this entire year, being able to look back month to month, week to week, day by day, and really just be proud of the work that you are doing, as opposed to feeling burnt out, feeling tired, feeling drained, knowing that you have a whole nother day where you're always basically pouring out of an empty cup. And that's a frustrating place to be. Trust me when I tell you, it's not fun. So I want you to start small. Now, lastly, when it comes to just executing, you're going to identify KPIs. Identify KPIs. And I always credit my wife on this for even letting me know what this term even meant. But KPIs are key performance indicators. And this just helps when you think about identifying your successful day and starting small, where you can say, okay, if for me to have a successful day, here's a key performance indicator that I did what I was supposed to do. Here's a key performance indicator that what was supposed to happen matched my expectation. And once you identify those things, you're going to want to execute more. But if you don't identify what your KPIs are, you're just always going to be shooting in the dark, where you're not going to be making as much progress as you think you should, just because you're just doing a bunch of stuff. Now, this is where you think about being busy and actually being productive, because you can just be doing a whole bunch of stuff without getting the results. But when you add KPIs into the mix, that's when you can actually start being productive. That's when you can actually start being focused, and you can start being intentional just around whatever it is that you're doing, because you have KPIs. You know exactly, all right, here's what needs to be hit. Here's when it needs to be hit. Here's why. Here's how I know to get there, so on and so forth. And so when you just think about all that you're looking to do in this new year and all the things that you are going to be executing on, because you're going to need to execute in order to achieve these things that's on your goal sheet this year, you're going to need to have your KPIs. You're going to need to execute, number one, by creating your successful day. Number two, by starting small. And then number three, evaluate your KPIs. And the thing about execution is that execution is the key to elevation. Simply put, in order for you to elevate, in order for you to separate yourself, you are going to need to execute this year. I'm going to need you to do some things you haven't done before. I'm going to need you to get out of your comfort zone and start executing and getting the job done. And so I hope that this conversation was helpful to you. And I want to introduce this new part just of our conversations. And this is just a simple challenge. For the next 2 weeks, how are you going to be your best version? Over the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We drop every first and third Monday in a way so that way it gives you time to really implement the things that we talk about. And so when you think about the 3 areas that we talked about with elevating your focus, when you think about evaluating your thinking and executing, just what are you going to do in these next 2 weeks that will help you take that next step towards becoming your best version? And so I'm going to ask you to just leave a comment down below because I'd love to hear it just to see how you guys are crushing it out there. If this conversation was helpful to you, I just have 2 quick favors to ask of you. Number 1, I'm going to ask you to share this with someone that you know, love, trust, and want to see win. Secondly, I'm going to ask you to download the free growth guide that is in the description below me. That growth guide is going to be your jumpstart to really putting together a personalized personal growth strategy for you that works for you, where you're going to learn about 5 growth traps that keep you from being the best version of yourself. And so if you go ahead and do that for me, I genuinely appreciate it. As always, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and I'm honored to be able to spend this time with you. You know, I don't take it for granted, and just thank you again for your time and your trust. Always remember that life gets better when you get better.